So, what do you call three people who pretend to know how to podcast? Paul, Daniel, any ideas?
Seismic Cinema.
Aye, I was supposed to answer the question.
Oh, sorry. I was never good at
Yeah.
riddles.
So we decided that I was sick of just saying hello and welcome to another Seismic Cinema podcast because every time I hear it, I cringe. So we're in the process of coming up with a catchy phrase, but we decided for our The Batman non-spoiler and spoiler review that we would try out a little riddle. Did you like it?
Well, it was different. It was different. So, yeah, I think we need to diversify a wee bit anyway. It was kind of get a bit boring just you saying we're Seismic Cinema. So,
Aye, but you never take a turn at going first, so you can't really criticize me too much.
mate, you never asked.
I ask you every single week if you want to go first.
Oh, well, sorry.
Right, nobody wants to listen to us bicker. So I'm joined, as always, and I'll just keep saying as always because it's become tradition, by Paul.
Yes, and we are joined by our very special guest, Mr. Daniel Hassan, who is our
Hello.
artistic consultant and
Creative consultant.
creative consultant and very good friend of the podcast.
And you might remember him from such episodes as the Book of Boba Fett ranking video, podcast. Yes.
Hello. Thanks for having me on.
No worries. So, as we said, or you might have worked out from our little riddle at the start, we're going to do a review and discussion of the new Batman film. Daniel saw it last night, and me and Paul are literally fresh from the cinema. And we literally just got home and we're going to talk about it. So, we decided to diversify a wee bit, and we're going to start off by doing a non spoiler review about what we liked, what we didn't like, and then we'll do a spoiler review focusing more on the kind of plot points and the specific story, and then we'll do our rating at the end.
Sounds like a plan.
So this is doing the non-spoiler reviews quite new to us, so we promise we'll try and not give away any spoilers in this first segment. So Daniel, as the guest tonight, what was something that you liked about the movie?
I liked pretty much the overall tone of the movie. It was really dark and gritty. It really felt like a film noir, a crime noir movie. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it.
Yeah, I was the same. I'm a big fan, as I've mentioned on the channel before, of kind of murder mystery and kind of just mystery in general. So I really enjoyed that too. Paul, what about yourself? What was something that what's a non-spoiler thing you enjoyed?
Yeah, well, I totally agree with the mood of the film was, like I was saying, dark, gritty, totally different from the older generation of Batman movies, and I actually probably preferred this movie to the Christopher Nolan trilogy, just tone wise. But I really liked the music throughout the whole film, just even the theme when he's on the screen. And it's just like the dun 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 kind of thing. I just thought that was so.
Do you want to do that again, Paul?
Dun 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 dun.
The production quality is going up and up with every episode, I think. Right, who needs the anchor free sounds that you get?
Yeah, that can be our intro now.
Yes, you actually stole. You both stole. Actually, those were two things I was going to mention, but that shows at this stage, at least, that we've got similar thoughts. So, what else did we like about it? I thought they got the casting spot on. I don't know. Is talking about the casting technically spoilerish? Maybe.
No, I wouldn't say so.
No. So I really liked. So we'll come into this a bit later. I really liked Robert Pattinson's portrayal of Batman. I really liked, although if you didn't know in advance that he was in it, Colin Farrell as the Penguin. Like the prosthetic job they did there was amazing.
Oh,
That
was
was
that
an
him?
excellent choice.
That was Colin Farrell, yeah, from the likes of Fantastic Beasts and I think he was in Was it Sherlock? No, it wasn't Sherlock. He was in.
Swap.
Was it? No. Okay. So I liked them. I thought Zoe Kravitz, I think's her name. She was in Fantastic Beasts as well. I think she was good as Catwoman.
Yeah, there's
And
some excellent choices.
is it Jeffrey Wright? Is that the guy that played
Yeah,
Commissioner
played.
Gordon? Yeah.
Yeah, Lieutenant Gordon.
Oh, he's not been promoted yet. And the other one was Andy Serkis as Alfred.
Yeah, good choice. He didn't have a lot of screen time, but I
Hmm.
done a good job.
I still prefer Michael Caine personally. I just feel like he's more of what he just was kind of more Alfred to me. But Andy Serkis didn't do a bad job.
I was just waiting for him to pull out his Gollum accent or his South African accent from the
Or
MCU.
his Snoke accent. So yeah, so that was something I liked. I thought the casting was good. I thought there was some really good acting performances. Is there anything else, Daniel, that stood out for you?
Probably, well, the Riddler. You know, the casting choice for him was really good. Yeah, Paul Dano.
Who was it? Sorry,
Paul Dano.
right. Okay.
Have you guys ever seen the movie Prisoners?
Paul
With
probably has, and I haven't.
Hugh Jackman and Jake Gyllenhaal.
No, I've not seen it. No.
So Paul Dano was a villain in that, and it reminded me of actually his role in that as well. Quite creepy, but I think he suited that. It was really good.
Yeah,
Really menacing.
I thought it was a really good choice as well. Like, I wasn't expecting him to be who he was when you finally see the reveal. But yeah, although I was kind of getting like Bane vibes sometimes when he was talking. Like,
It was the voice, wasn't it? Yeah.
yeah, is it? And at the start of the film, I don't know if it's spoilers, but I was finding it hard to hear some of the lines just because they were kind of like whispering sometimes, or they're kind of like that kind of
Muffled.
muffled voices. But yeah, he did kind of have that Bane kind of vibe with his voice kind of thing.
Yeah.
This is where I miss my subtitles that I always have on when I'm watching things at home.
Yeah, I'm the exact same.
I can't. I actually managed to listen pretty well on that one without them. So, Paul, what's something else? I think we'll quickly run out of non-spoiler things to say and want to get into the other things. So, is there anything else that stood out for you?
I like the pacing of the movie. Like, there's always something going on that was pertinent to the plot. I didn't feel like there was any places where it dropped. And I was kind of like, oh, come on, let's get back to the action, or let's get back to whatever. I always thought there was something. The plot was just moving at a good pace. I don't know if maybe other people felt differently with it, but I just really enjoyed the whole pacing of the film as a whole.
I've got a wee viewpoint there, so it's probably better to talk about it in the non-spoiler section. I really enjoyed the film, and I thought it was really well made, really well acted. The action was really good. I do think, and we mentioned this on the way out the cinema, I do think it was maybe a wee bit too long for my personal taste. I feel like 2.5 hours instead of the 3 would have been better. I just feel like the kind of last half hour maybe dragged out a wee bit, and there was a few shots that just kind of lasted maybe too long. I was also getting quite tired, and I needed the toilet for an hour, so these are also contributing factors. So I don't know what anyone else thought about the length of the film.
So
Well,
oh, sorry, and you go.
sorry, I quite liked the fact that it was 3 hours long. The pacing, I agree with Paul. The pacing was well done. But I did see some other reviews, and people did kind of talk about the pacing, saying it was a bit slow and in bits. But I don't think there was, when I was watching it, I don't think there was any part that kind of felt as if it dragged a little bit.
I'll come back to this when we talk spoilers, because there is a particular a part of the film I thought maybe it started to take its time a bit too much, but we can come back to that. So we've done about 10 minutes non-spoiler, which I think is a decent amount of time. Will we get into the spoiler aspects now?
Yes, please.
Yep.
Yes.
There's a guy
So
to talk about.
we'll obviously, when we first did our first few reviews around the Book of Boba Fett, we kind of felt that we kind of just described the film too much. So I think it's good, if you're in agreement, folks, that we just kind of stick with particular things we liked and disliked instead of kind of going in a kind of linear fashion.
Yeah.
I'm good with that.
It just becomes a wee bit like we're telling the story. So, Daniel, do you want to start us off? Is there any particular spoiler aspects to like the storyline or the plot, or just particular scenes that you really enjoyed?
Well, I enjoyed it right from the get-go. The scene when it opens up and you can see someone's on a rooftop watching a family. And automatically, I think you think it's maybe Batman watching, but then it turns out it's the Riddler. Picking looking at his victim. But the scene was set up, and I thought it was really dark and tense. And it really set the tone for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, it was a really good introduction, wasn't it, to the Riddler?
Yeah, it was. I seen that it was like I think the Riddler is based on the Zodiac Killer as well. So I quite like that. I don't know if you know who that is.
I've heard the phrase. Yeah,
it was
There's
called.
A lot of these. It wasn't me. You did that last week as well. Right, Paul, instead of accusing me of crimes I didn't commit, what was something that you liked, spoiler-wise?
I quite liked that this film was quite grounded in realism. Like, all the kind of gadgets and stuff, like, was like, he didn't really have like outlandish gadgets that he's had in the past in movies. Like, he's got his wee grappling hooks and stuff, but you can see the wee mechanisms that come out, like wee pistols kind of thing from his arms. And even his car, it's not like a silly bat-shaped
His
car. It's just like a souped-up muscle car, which looks like badass, by the way. And I just feel like this film really helped because it's dark and gritty. I think if you had like outlandish gadgets and outlandish kind of weaponry and vehicles, I think it would really taken away from it. So yeah, I like that kind of aspect. It was really grounded, and like instead of him having like a hang glider as a cape, he actually had to rip out a wingsuit.
Yeah.
So
it
yeah,
showed his inexperience from that as well.
What was that, sorry, Daniel?
It showed you his inexperience, because it was only year 2. He's only been Batman for 2 years, so there's still a lot. He's not polished. There's still a lot of things he needs to learn and try out.
Yeah. And by the way, see that wingsuit scene?
Yeah.
How did he not take his bloody head off when he hit the bridge?
Right, but save that for the things we didn't like. I think this is a good opportunity to segue into, and we did this when we spoke about things like Harry Potter in terms of our experience with the franchise, because I think that kind of leads into, Daniel already sounds a lot more knowledgeable about Batman than me or Paul. So just for context, I've seen and enjoyed the Christopher Nolan trilogy. I've seen some of the older ones when I was a kid. I've seen Batman versus Superman, which I think I saw with you, Paul, years ago. Wasn't a massive fan of. I don't think was Ben Affleck in another Batman film apart from that, or was that the only one?
He was in Justice League.
Yeah, did I watch just? I think I watched. Yeah, I'm not. I'd like to highlight I'm not a massive DC fan, although I probably do like the Batman films the best out of the kind of DC films. I just one thing I'd like to highlight, linking back to my earlier Colin Farrell fact. I was absolutely terrified of Danny DeVito's Penguin when I was a kid. It still scares me a wee bit.
Still scares me just now.
Yeah. Paul, what's your? We don't really speak about Batman that much, if I'm being honest. What's your kind of background with the Batman franchise?
I think I've always been a big fan of the Batman. Well, like I said, I've watched all the old movies. I used to watch the Adam West series, like the old '60s series, after school sometimes when it was on, like these kind of old retro channels. And I loved the Christopher Nolan trilogy. But I actually think probably this one's my favourite out of the lot.
You've
I don't-
just ruined our Batman ranking podcast. Thanks, Paul.
But yeah, I don't know. I just think that this one's got such a dark and gritty tone to it. It's probably more different than all the other ones, really, and I really enjoyed that. So, but yeah, I've seen some of the animations in it as well. I would stay away from. I can't remember what it's called. It's like Ninja Batman or something. Don't do it. It's weird and awful.
I've actually read a couple of comic books. It's like the Court of the Night Owls, which is quite interesting. I've read part of that.
Don't know. What about you, Daniel? Are you the
Daniel's
Batman
gonna
aficionado?
Daniel's gonna blow us out the Batcave here.
I mean, yeah, I love Batman. I think one of my first ever movies I remember watching when I was a kid was the first Batman movie with Michael Keaton.
Jack Frost.
Yeah, the one with Tim Burton's Batman, first one. So I'm showing my age here. I think I was about 4 when I first seen it, when it came out on VHS. And I fell in love with it right away, and I think it still stands up to this day as being a great Batman movie.
Yeah, I think they've all been really good, except for George Clooney and his nipple armor. But we'll skip
Yeah,
that.
that was probably one of the worst. I can
Right,
kind
well,
of forgive Val Kilmer's Batman, but Clooney's was awful, god awful.
I thought that was a useful wee segue just to let our listeners and viewers know kind of where we're at, so that if I make any factual errors, then it's not my fault. So, right, who went last there? Was it
I think it was me.
something you liked? Something I like. I like to just think of things as they pop into my head. I really like the scene at the funeral when the car just flies in, and then the DA has the kind of bomb strapped to him in the phone. I thought that was a really kind of unexpected moment when the car burst through, and I thought there was a real tension there. But Batman probably should have died when that blew up. Like that was a wee bit like plot armory.
He had a lot of plot armor in this movie, didn't he?
Yeah.
What
did you guys think of that scene?
Yeah,
I liked it. It was really tense.
yeah, I liked it as well, especially when like when they don't know what's coming, they can just hear the screams outside the cathedral at first, and everyone's turning around going, "Oh, what's going on here?"
Mm-hmm. So, Daniel, anything else stands out for you in terms of things you like? Because we'll eventually want to talk about anything that we didn't think worked as well.
Yeah, I think it was good to show off Batman as an actual detective. You know, as he walked into the crime scene at the start, you can kind of see it from his perspective. All the cops, looking at him as if, "What are you doing here?" But he was actually contributing to, the looking at the evidence and knowing what he's talking about, and can see what the police can't see. I find that really interesting.
I really like the. Sorry, Paul, on you go.
No, I was just going to agree with Daniel, like, because I think that can get overlooked quite a lot of the times in the different movies. That he's actually kind of like a master detective, and I think Scarlett was saying as well that it's kind of like more like the video games. I've not played the video games, to be honest, but she said it's more the kind of style.
Oh, you need to play the games, the Arkham games. Brilliant.
I'm sure you can get them on the PlayStation Plus as like a free download for like the PS4 version. One of them,
Yeah,
like
I
Arkham
think
Knight,
I've got
maybe.
one. I think I've got one. There's a free
Yeah.
download.
In terms of the whole kind of detective stuff, one that I absolutely loved was the different cards that were left for Batman and the riddles within them. I thought that was a really good way to kind of progress through the film
Yeah.
and kind of focus on the different victims.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was just finding it hard because like he's going through them and he's solving them like straight away, and I'm going, I've no idea what they're talking about.
Some of them, when they work it out, it is quite obvious. Like, see when he said, like, what happens to a liar when they die?
They still lie.
Yeah, the lie
Yeah.
still or something like that. Yeah,
Yeah, they lie still.
that one I understood right away, so that was good. So, Paul, I think you're up next. Anything else in particular that you enjoyed?
I liked the cinematography throughout the whole film. Just the different kind of camera angles on different shots, and like see like during the car chase, like the cameras on the side of the cars and stuff. I thought that was absolutely fantastic. I just really enjoyed like the way the whole movie was kind of shot. So
I
yeah,
liked
I'd
the
say
bit when the Penguin was in the car upside down and he sees Batman walking towards him in the kind of fire. I remember saying to our good friend of the channel, Andrew Strachan, who was also at the cinema, that right, I'm mentioning that one in the review. Do you know the one I mean?
oh, when he's walking slowly. Oh yeah, when he's
He's up, the
yeah.
camera's upside down, and then you see Batman walking towards the car in the flames, but upside down.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah,
I thought that was a really nice shot, and the way they kept showing things from Batman's point of view, and you could see the kind of shape of his mask around the edges of the screen.
Yeah.
So it was like from his point of view, I thought that was quite well done as well.
So I think the director, going back to how I said at the start of the movie, he'd walked in, it was kind of like from Batman's perspective. I think the director likes showing things from people's perspectives in this movie. So, like, you're seeing the Batman from Penguin's perspective. This tall, dark, scary figure coming towards him. So I find that it seems to be a recurring theme in the movie.
What was the director's name again? I know his name when you say it, but
He directed the Planet of the Apes movies.
was it Matt Reeves?
Yeah, Matt Reeves.
Right. Also, I found out I watched a couple of reviews just when I was getting organised for this podcast. It was Michael Giacchino that did the music from Rogue One, which is quite interesting.
Yeah, I felt as if he done well with the score, and I think there was parts of the score when Catwoman was on the scene, it sounded very much like the Catwoman theme from Batman Returns. I think it had elements of that.
Right.
I don't know if you've seen Batman Returns. If you can remember it.
See, in terms of the older films, like I've seen some of them, but it was literally in the 90s, so I can't remember what the names were.
I felt as if it was very Danny Elfman.
Maybe that's something I can go back and do in the near future.
Oh, Colin, you've got a lot of movies to watch, my friends.
So do you. So do you. You get Rebels to watch. Stop talking nonsense. Right. Something I really liked, and I'm sure you guys will agree, is just Batman was pretty just beating people up constantly and going quite far at times, and just see when he comes into like the club and he was just nudging people out of the way and things like that. I thought that was really funny.
Yeah, I like that. He didn't care, but I think his fight style was very raw as well. That comes down to his inexperience. Still quite raw and brutal, and it doesn't hold back when it comes to fighting.
Okay, well, want to get on to discussing anything, and from hearing you both speak, it doesn't seem that there's a lot. I'm probably going to be the controversial one here and mention a few things that, but maybe not things I didn't like, but maybe things that I will get to that. Anyway, just anything else that comes to mind, we'll maybe just take a turn each and just mention anything else we've not talked about in terms of spoilers. start with you, Daniel. Is there anything else that you'd like to highlight?
Actually, also at the start, I meant to say this at the beginning as well. When he was talking about Gotham and how it was corrupt, and it would show you that when the bat signal was out up in the air, it would show you, these criminals doing their business, but then it would show you like their perspective of looking into maybe a dark alley and thinking, is Batman going to come out here?
Yeah.
It was that kind of psychological aspect of it as well. He actually, made a difference, even though he might have not been there. It was just that the thought of him being there, it terrified people, which I quite liked as well.
I liked Robert Pattinson's voiceover.
Yeah.
I can hear a bit of an echo right now. Can you hear it, or is it just me?
Yeah,
no.
I could hear something, but I don't know what it was.
Yeah. I will. Only our hardcore fans will catch that one. So, yeah, I really liked Robert Pattinson's kind of monologue at the start there and all the bits you were talking about. But was there anything else you want to highlight before we move on to anything we didn't like as much?
Yeah, just I would say just the action sequences I thought were, like you're saying, outstanding. I really liked the like the hallway scene when he comes out the elevator and he's turned all the lights out, and the only time you see him is when the muzzle flashers are going off the guns.
Yeah,
right.
I like that.
Yeah, it takes out a whole hallway full of goons.
Just try to think if there's anything else. Obviously, even I worked that one out that was a new version of the Joker in the jail at the end with the Riddler.
Was it not Two-Face?
Was that?
No, I think it was the Joker.
It's the Joker, isn't it?
I thought it was Two-Face.
They wouldn't emphasize the laughter that much. Like that's the Joker's thing.
Yeah, but I did think it was the Two-Face at the start because he made the riddle about the two sides of a coin, two faces of a coin. But it was the laugh after that, made me think, oh, this is the Joker they're trying to show.
Who was do you know who the actor was, Daniel?
Yes.
Dun, dun, dun.
Sorry, I'm racking my brain. I'm sure it is. Oh, he's an Irish actor. He was in Dunkirk. Is it Barry Keoghan or something?
You could say anything and we wouldn't know. So there you go.
Yeah, I think it was Barry Keoghan.
Obviously,
if that's how you pronounce his name.
Joker castings are quite a big deal.
I'm going to double down and say it's Two-Face.
I don't think it is.
But I don't think he'll be in any of the sequels. I don't think you'll see the Joker in any of these movies. The sequels of these.
Here's an opportunity for a shameless plug. If anyone knows the definite name of the actor or knows for certain whether it's the Joker, you can comment on one of our many platforms. Also, a good opportunity when we mentioned the Joker to mention that we've recently done a top 10 villains ranking, which is also live. I just needed to get those wee plugs in there. Right, well, we spent just a wee bit of time talking about anything that we didn't like as much. I don't think this will also be a much shorter section, and then we'll do our rankings before finishing up.
Sounds good.
Daniel, is there anything that I don't foresee there being much from your angle anyway? Was there anything that you thought didn't work as well or you didn't enjoy as much?
Personally, I can't really fault the movie. I liked everything from it.
Well, this is going to be a really short section.
I know. I'm trying to think if look back on it, but there's nothing on the movie that I didn't dislike. All positive.
What about yourself, Paul? Is there anything that any critique you want to give?
Just we nitpicky kind of things. Overall, I thought the movie was like fantastic. But just be nitpicky things like obviously Batman's head should have came off when he bashed into the bridge at like 100 miles an hour. I don't know what his suit was made of, but it took a hell of a lot of bullets from like high caliber rounds and didn't seem to make a dent.
Almost at point blank range.
Yeah. All the masked Riddler guys had like rifles aimed at the mayor, and they didn't manage to kill her. Like the one just kind of winged her at the side, and that was the only point of them being there, and they nobody managed to shoot her like properly. And Robert Pattinson's hair was just weird, I thought. But other than that,
I didn't like the darkness around his eyes.
what the makeup?
Yeah.
No, I think that's just all part to hide as part of the mask.
Cool.
I thought I did quite a wee bit. I thought I did quite a wee bit to his character.
Don't know. Just gave you like Twilight vibes.
Well, if you notice that not one Batman shows the dark makeup when they take off their cowl, but it's essential. Just a wee thing that you noticed. He's the only one to actually do that.
I showed my hand early in terms of the length of the film, and I'll just be honest, I get quite sleepy in the cinema sometimes, and when I'm watching TV, I'm just one of those people that can drift off quite easily. So I was getting quite tired towards the end. So I didn't really enjoy the last half hour as much because I was kind of running it on empty. I did feel like it maybe went on personally just a wee bit too long after the Riddler went to jail, and maybe that'd been a better like end to the film. I know that's probably a controversial take, but I just feel like for me personally, 3 hours is quite long. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Well, I think the end bit, like after he's gone to jail, like, I think they needed that kind of Madison Square Garden bit just to show his kind of growth, how selfless he became, and like when he hears the Riddler going say he was doing it because he was like he was vengeance, and that was what Batman was saying like through the whole start of the movie, that he was vengeance. And I think he kind of inspired the Riddler, the Riddler henchman. So I think that kind of showed how he changed and how he started helping people. He wasn't hiding in the shadows. He was lighting up the flare. He was like leading the way instead of being this masked figure from the shadows.
Yeah,
I did like that visual of him kind of leading them out the water. There was something I noted that it's not really a criticism. It was more, I've got a decent working knowledge of the Batman franchise and that I know who the Penguin is, the Riddler is, Catwoman. See, for somebody who didn't know the characters, do you think there could have been an element of there was too many characters to keep track of? Because it was easy when you know who they were. What's your thoughts on that if you looked at it from like a newbie's point of view?
I think it'd be a good introduction to them because, well, you don't really know. For someone who hasn't seen them, you know, the Penguin is not the character you know him from previous movies or TV shows yet. He's just starting out, so I think it's a good introduction for him. He was more of a henchman more than a boss. So I think in the next movie, I think you'll see him as, you know, more of the Penguin, and they'll probably call him that instead of, you know, just the name he was known by, and that was Oz. You know, so
I heard somewhere that he's getting a TV show. Is that right?
Yeah.
HBO?
Yeah, it's going to be a spin-off.
Yeah.
Oh, man, the world is just full of spin-offs, isn't it?
That just reminded me. I will need to start a second channel called Seismic Spin-offs. you can write that down. So that just reminded me of a scene. I think it's when the Penguins was tied together and he started walking like a penguin. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, that was pretty funny.
He started waddling. I thought there was quite good humor in the film.
Yeah, there's quite good
film, but
there's quite good one-liners as well. Like the one I thought was quite good was when he says about the cop that he sees working in the mob bar,
Mm-hmm.
and the detective's like, "Oh, is he moonlighting at the club?" And Batman's like, "No, he's moonlighting as a cop."
Yeah.
I thought that was really clever. So there was quite a lot of good one-liners in there.
Yeah.
One about pulling punches. It was like I did when he hit Gordon.
Yeah.
So there was a couple of bits that made me chuckle. So we're about 35 minutes in, so I think it's a good opportunity just to give our rankings of the film. Not our ranking. I'm ranking mad. Our rating of the film, and then talk about what we're doing next week. So we don't. Is it 10 we normally do it with, Paul? You're the rating guy.
Yep, usually out of 10.
So Daniel, guest policy goes first. What's your rating out of 10?
I'll give it a 9.
Okay. What's your reasons for that?
Just that it was a, all round a pretty decent movie. I enjoyed everything about it. Just don't want to be too overconfident and give it a solid 10.
Fair enough. And Paul, what about yourself?
Yeah, I'd probably agree with Daniel. I'd go a very high 9. Like it's not perfect by any means, but
How'd
it's
you get a high 9 out of interest?
like a 9. It's almost a 10.
Right.
9 plus.
You don't get a 9 plus. Come on.
9.75. No, I like Daniel was saying, like the movie itself, I think is just very well rounded, and for like some Batman movies in the past, like sometimes he's more Bruce Wayne than he is Batman, but in this movie you got him being Batman a hell of a lot of the time, which I really enjoyed. Like you got to see him basically doing his thing for most of the movie, and he was only Bruce Wayne when he had to be, kind of thing, just to find out some bits of information. But yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. So a 9 for me.
Right. So I'm going to be the controversial guy. Not too controversial. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10 because I did think it was a really well made, well acted, and good film. It really, I know I keep coming back to it, but it was just a length for me. But I was a sleepyhead, so maybe I'll rewatch it one day when I'm more alert, and I might change my mind on that. But I'm quite content with my rating of 8, particularly as not a massive Batman fan. So I'm quite happy with that. Please let me off with that.
Yeah.
I didn't go too low there. So
I can get that some people have an issue with the length,
yeah.
so I can forgive people for that.
Daniel, did you feel like it was 3 hours though? When I was sitting there, I
No,
didn't feel like it was 3 hours.
I didn't think it felt like 3 hours.
No, I thought just because
No.
there's something always happening, I thought it just went by really quickly.
Yeah, definitely.
Right, so just a heads up about what we're doing moving forward. So on Tuesday evening, our next ranking video is going to video and podcast. We can say video now because it's on YouTube. Is launching, and we're going to look at the top 10, our top 10 tracks from movies and TV shows. And for that one, myself and Paul will be joined by Strachan from Strachan's podcast. Paul, are you looking forward to that one?
Yeah, I just need to remember what movies have good soundtracks now and leave it till an hour before the podcast airs and quickly write a list down.
I've made a short list and I'll go back to it and I'll just kind of rank them near the time. The following next Thursday, we're going to look at another movie. And Paul, do you want to take the lead with this one?
Yeah, and we're going to be looking.
I haven't seen this.
I've only seen about a third of it, so don't worry about it.
Right.
Yeah, we're going to be looking at Guy Ritchie's The Gentleman, and if we get our scheduling right, we're hoping to have Daniel back on if he wants to be back on.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah.
Okay.
So on you go.
Paul, are you since you dodged the introductions this week, are you going to tell us where we can find us on social media and where we can find the podcast? Or are you going to patch that as well?
I'll patch that. You're good at it. I'm terrible at it. How about this? I'll do the intro for the next episode, and then that'll be our squares.
We'll see. We'll see. Right. So anyway, you can find our podcast on Spotify, podcast, Apple Podcast, Good Pods, and we've also got a video version on YouTube. And we'd appreciate it if people could follow us and subscribe, like, and all that jazz. We are going to start looking into, we don't know where we're going to get the money from, but we're going to maybe look into the likes of cameras and mics because we really want to start bringing our YouTube game and actually getting our mugs out on the small screen. In terms of social media, we are continuously growing on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Paul's not caved in terms of getting TikTok yet, so that's all the different locations you can find us. So, Daniel, the policy of the channel, policy to official, the what's the word?
Tradition,
that's better, is that the guest reminds us and reminds the listeners and viewers what our slogan is.
check your screensaver.
He only designed the logo and the cover photos.
I know. See, because I get put in the spot, I instantly forget.
We put you on the spot the last time as well.
Oh, I know. See, I wasn't. Oh my god, that's shocking.
Sorry, Daniel. I'll bail you out on this one.
Thank you.
Okay. Our slogan is unprofessional to a T.
It's actually the power of escapism because we believe that going to the movies, discussing the movies, and podcasting about the movies can make a real difference to your lives. So that was a Seismic Cinema podcast. We gave you a wee riddle at the start. We talked about Batman in between, and we'll look forward to our next podcast.
Yep, thanks for that. And again, thank you, Daniel, for coming on and all the work you do to help us with our channel.
No, you're very welcome. Thanks for asking me to come on again.
And we look forward to having you on next week as well.
Less nervous this time than I was the first time coming on, so.
Nah, you're doing really well. Keep it up. You might put Colin out a job.
Oh, yeah, I control the Anchor account. Right. See you, folks.
Right, see you later.
Take care.
Bye.